Tonight on WBOC News at 6.
I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. We're covering all of Delmarva tonight.
This is real isolation, seen from Chopper 16. Folks on Tangier Island stranded. How WBOC helped out a few families who needed it.
Icebreaker. In Somerset County, this ship clears a pathway for boats to get to and from Smith Island. WBOC takes you along for the ride.
Two cows were moving slowly in Kent County. How they were rescued after falling through a frozen pond.
And if you're in need of something to be just ecstatic about, Charlie has something in tonight's travels that should do the trick.
An even colder blast of Arctic air bearing down on Delmarva right now. We'll see some snow this evening, and wait till you see the temperatures tomorrow. I'll have an update.
Now, WBOC News at 6, Delmarva's news leader.
Good evening. I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to WBOC News at 6.
People today are still digging out from the snow across Delmarva. Of course, fell a couple of nights ago. Here's video of some shoveling snow to help get a car moving. But word is, folks, the snow is not over. Chief Meteorologist Dan Satterfield in the Storm Tracker Weather Center. Dan, we could see up to an additional inch of snowfall tonight?
Yeah, most folks are just going to see a dusting to a heavy dusting, but an isolated spot or two could get over an inch. Let's go to radar right now, and you can see snow to our west already, just about to cross the bay. It's going to come through between about 8 and 11. It'll last about an hour at any one spot, no longer than that, but it may come down fairly quickly for a while. You can see a pretty good patch there just east of Fredericksburg, and this is the Arctic cold front right there off to our west. And snow showers are perhaps possible for many spots tomorrow, but they'll be very light. This is a late computer model run showing up to an inch of snow. Look at this image from the National Ice Center, though. The red, that is 90 to 99% ice cover. Look how much of the Chesapeake Bay is covered. Look how much you can see on the Delaware Bay, even down along the Crisfield area and Tangier Sound. Out towards Smith Island, there is a lot of ice out there, and with these cold temperatures coming in tonight, with a low of 10 and below zero tomorrow night, that ice is going to get even thicker and more widespread. More weather coming up.
All right, Dan, let's follow up on that thought of all the ice. Tonight we bring you the struggle for people who are living on two precious islands in the Chesapeake Bay, Smith Island, Maryland, Tangier Island, Virginia, both sitting about 12 miles off the coast of Crisfield. And this map shows the waterways that flow between the islands and the mainland. And for islanders, that water is their lifeline. But when it freezes, it's their enemy. We put WBOC's Maxine Bensel on the story in Chopper 16, and she quickly learned that people on Tangier need help.
We're on our way to Tangier Island to make a very special delivery. Taking a look from Chopper 16, the ice has people on the island stranded. No one can come or go, leaving them without water and other very important necessities.
From Chopper 16, this is Tangier Island, socked in with ice. But we were able to land and deliver some precious cargo. And Islander on the mainland told us about two moms who ran out of baby formula. So we offered to deliver 6 cans of formula and 4 jugs of nursery water for 2 babies.
We're able to help you. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
It's an essential delivery for a mother and baby in need.
She needed formula. She didn't have enough formula. She was just born a week and a half ago and didn't have enough.
And Christine Shepard had no way of getting it.
It means the world, because if I didn't have formula, she wouldn't be able to eat. So that you bringing it here was very grateful.
And baby Aaron was grateful too. Across the frozen bay on the mainland in Crisfield, islanders like Donna Colick have the opposite problem. They can't get home to Tangier.
I've been stuck off the island since Saturday. As of right now, they were going to come today, but I guess the Coast Guard that was going to help couldn't get in. They're also out of water. Their water tank doesn't have any water, so we got people over there in dire straits.
Dwayne Crockett's also stuck in Crisfield. Crockett says the ice has caused problems.
A few times, yeah, but it's been a while since it's happened. The last time, I guess, 96, 90, 95 or 96, something like that.
It's not easy being stuck.
They need help. They need attention, and they need help.
Help from the frozen solitude.
Maybe we'll be able to get home one day.
To Tangier Island, where the ice is thick and people young and old all need help.
Back in Chopper 16, it's a way of life for residents of Tangier Island, a way of life that's very difficult on days like today. Reporting over Accomack County, Maxine Bensel, WBOC News, Tangier Island.
Here's another example of the isolation problems from the ice. While Chopper 16 flew over Tangier, we saw this: medical crews loading a patient onto a medevac helicopter for an emergency trip to the mainland. Some tough sledding these days for those islanders.
Yeah, while the ice is making life on Tangier very difficult, folks on neighboring Smith Island have a saving grace. WBOC's Bill Mitch takes us aboard an icebreaker as it plows a path through the frozen bay.
It was on Monday when the J. Millard Taws icebreaker here in Crisfield escorted ferries to and from Smith Island, allowing folks there to restock up on some supplies. Today, we got to tag along on track maintenance, which is a trip out into the ice, essentially designed to make life a little bit easier for the next time the ship needs to head to Smith Island. Nothing was slowing down the J. Millard Taws on Wednesday. Despite being over 70 years old, the frozen water was no match for the icebreaker. Its captain, Eddie Summers, has been at the helm for 28 years, cutting paths from Crisfield to Smith Island. In his nearly 3 decades as captain, there has not been any ice Summers couldn't get through, but it can get rough sometimes.
The boats are shaking. And when it gets thicker, you get up to 12 and 14 inches, and sometimes you may have to back up and run into it.
This week, Summers says the ice has been anywhere from 1 to 5 inches thick, but in some spots up to 8 inches. No matter how thick the ice gets, the J. Millard Taws needs to work its way through it so the ferries from Smith Island can make their way to Crisfield like they did earlier in the week.
Groceries, medicine, I think they're okay on fuel right now, so just the basic needs.
From Chopper 16, you can see the icebreaker in action. Wednesday's trip was track maintenance, going back through the path to Smith Island so it does not freeze over completely. You can even see me catching a front row seat as the Taws cuts through the ice like a knife through hot butter. The trips for Summers are sometimes lengthy, heading to Smith Island a day early so he can escort ships back to Crisfield at the first light next morning. But it's crucial for folks on the island.
It's very important. I grew up there, so I know how important it can be.
And with temperatures expected to stay freezing for the next few days, the icebreaker and its crew will be hard at work. The next resupply trip for this ship will be on Friday morning, escorting those ferries to and from Smith Island. It's a 2.5-hour trip each way. This ice really slows things down. In Somerset County, I'm Bill Mitch for WBOC News here in Crisfield.
Well, cool to see the icebreaker at work. Well, just about every river and stream on Delmarva is covered in a layer of ice. WBOC's Mid-Year Bureau Chief Tyler Butler is live along the Choptank River tonight. Tyler, it has to be pretty cold to freeze that entire river, and you learned today it's so cold out there, it's making noise.
Paul, typically you can tell it's cold by the feeling of the wind on your face or, of course, the feeling of snow in your hand. But it's been so cold on Delmarva the past few days, you can sense it another way as well. You can hear it. The first noise you hear when looking across this unmoving landscape is the inescapable sound of silence. But if you stand still and listen, and I mean really listen, it all comes to life. Mother Nature speaking to us in what sounds like Morse code, transmitted through cracks, pops, and the occasional splinter. She's telling us just how cold she is. And it's not just the sound to appreciate, it's a canvas for any artist. One that Lynn Galetta of Taylor's Island takes advantage of. For the past 2 years, she has taken pictures of every sunset on Taylor's Island, posting it on Facebook. When the bay ice is over, she gets more feedback than normal for her work.
Last night's the picture received a lot of likes. I guess because there was like a snow and there was also ice in last night's picture on the bay.
It's Lynn's favorite time of the year to capture the golden hour from her perch in one of the most beautiful parts of the peninsula.
When the sun is setting, that can put a beautiful color on the bay. It can make the ice look almost red if you have a really good sunset. Just the reflection of it is just beautiful.
In Cambridge, Robin Dean and her nephew are taking advantage of the snow and ice. She says the frozen chop tank reminds her of her childhood.
We'd get to Hambrooks Bay and I'd see the ice and I'd get so excited because we'd always skate on Pink's Pond. So it's one of the best memories I have, and every time I see it, it brings that back. So it's just awesome.
But nothing this beautiful can last forever. Some ice is already melted. Be sure to take a look around before it's gone for another year or more. Now the ice is pretty thick out there, but not thick enough to walk on, not thick enough to skate on. So while you're out there taking your pictures and just breathing in the fresh air, be careful out there. Reporting live on the Midshore, Tyler Butler, WBOC News, Cambridge.
All right, Tyler, thank you. Sticking with our ice theme, a unique water rescue to tell you about from Kent County. It's centered around a frozen pond. As WBOC's Chanel Douglas tells us, the victims could not call for help, they could only moo.
Here's something you don't see every day. An utter emergency in Frederica. These pictures show one of two cows that had fallen through a frozen pond. Rescuers used a rope to pull them to safety.
We went to the residence and indeed had two cows in the pond, probably in 10 to 12 feet of water. So they were actually swimming around in the pond, and there was ice around the edges and they couldn't get back out again.
So two firemen sprung into action. Wearing their water gear, they broke the ice. The cows were then able to get to the shallow end and walk out to safety.
We were lucky this time. If they had had to stay in there an extended period of time, they would have probably either drowned or the cold weather would have certainly killed them.
Despite the hair-raising experience, we're told both cows are doing just fine. It's not every day that Animal Control and Frederica Volunteer Fire Company come together for a rescue mission, but luckily they did in order to save these two cows. Reporting in Kent County, I'm Chanel Douglas, WBOC News, Frederica.
It's an all-out chicken fight with a direct impact on Delaware. How these little guys are at the center of a $2.5 billion threat that has to do with international trade negotiations.
This Ocean City Boardwalk performance prompted the creation of a new task force to better regulate street performers. What store owners along the boardwalk are saying to that task force as they push for change. That story coming up next here on WBOC News at 6.
Remember this? Last summer, Chelsea Plymill took her pole dancing routine, that is, to the Ocean City Boardwalk, stirring up controversy. This, in part, prompted Town Council to create a task force to come up with ways to regulate street performers. Now, at a meeting today, store owners took the floor saying they are not happy currently with the performers, but they want to figure out a way to coexist in the future. Now, WBOC multimedia journalist Lauren Holloway live tweeted the event and caught up with folks afterwards. Follow her on Twitter at Holloway News as she live tweets events across Delmarva. Well, it is an international game of chicken impacting Delaware.
Right, the United States and South Africa have been in fierce negotiations over importing and exporting poultry. As you might expect, Delmarva lawmakers at the federal level helping to lead this debate. Our Sussex County Bureau Chief Evan Kozlov joining us tonight. Evan, you sat down today with Delaware's U.S. Senator Chris Coons to talk about it.
Yes, Steve, for more than a decade, South Africa has placed a counter-dumping duty on American poultry imports. And today, Coons tells me that this has all but pushed American poultry out of South Africa. Now, in response, Coons says Congress is threatening to end a trade agreement with South Africa that currently pumps $2.5 billion into the South African economy.
Two determined senators, Republican and Democrat, can stop just about any piece of legislation from moving forward. We can and we will hold up this trade deal if South Africa doesn't come to some reasonable resolution.
All right, now this is just a small segment of a much longer interview with Coons in tonight's Web Extra. We have more from Coons as well as farmers who talk to us about how these tariffs hit home. In Sussex County Bureau, this is Evan Kozlov, WBOC News. Back to you guys.
Another nice sunny day to bundle up and play in the snow if you could. News watcher Terry Hanley sent us this picture of Courtney and her daughter Liza, as well as Ashley and her daughter Olivia, enjoying snow number 2 behind the Cambridge Hospital.
And Dan says a little bit more snow is on our doorstep, at least in some parts of Delmarva. He fills us in. Coming up next here on the News at 6.